My name is James Petro. I'm doing my presentation on Chapter 10. In this chapter, Ramachandran looks at the evolution of laughter and also looks at two cases of people that suffered aneurysms, which caused them to laugh uncontrollably and ultimately die from these aneurysms. In the chapter, he does not really go into the parts of the brain that are involved in laughing or crying, these types of emotions. He does talk about the base of the brain being where these aneurysms happened. So I decided I wanted to try and find out a little more about what parts of the brain are involved in laughing and crying, and also to try and look at the reasons for crying, actually, since he focused on laughing, the evolution of laughing. The interesting thing about crying is that we produce these tears that really don't seem like they would serve any evolutionary purpose, because they actually make it harder for us to see. So in a stressful situation, we're actually blinding ourselves, which doesn't seem to make sense as far as our survival. Anyway, I found two articles. First article was in a scientific journal called The Brain. It's called The Pathological Laughter and Crying. A link to the cerebellum. In this article, it's a case study of a patient called CB who suffered a stroke and then developed this disorder of pathological laughter and crying. When the researchers in there did some work to try to map the pathway of what's actually happening when we laugh or cry. In this diagram, you can see the blue lines show input and the red lines show output. It's probably a little bit hard to see, but it starts either like these messages start in the limbic system or the motor cortex or other parts of the cortex. They're then sent to the cerebellum and the upper part of the brain stem, and then these are relayed back through the red nuclei and the thalamus and the midbrain out to the cortex again, and then from these parts of the cortex it will go to the parts of the body that are involved in crying, like the tear ducts in our eyes. A message will be sent from the cortex to these tear ducts, which produce tears. This also shows where the lesions are that in the patient CB who suffered the stroke, and the lesions that he had were all in the cerebellum or the upper part of the brain stem. So from these MRIs that they did and they found where these lesions were, and they could tell that since they were in these parts of the brain, that these parts of the brain are what control our ability to laugh and cry. This tells us that because it is in this evolutionary old part of our brain, that it is something that's been with us for a while. The other thing, this second article talks more about the evolution of crying and why we cry. This article was in the Scientific American Mind magazine, and it looks at the reasons that we may have for crying. When we're born, we all have the ability to cry. That's the first thing that we do when we come out of the womb. So it's not something that we have to be taught. It's a reflexive act. It's not part of our higher brain function. Not until later in life that it becomes part of our higher brain function. And so it is a way of communicating a need. Like if we need food, we start crying. Later in life, as a child develops their cortex, they can cry for other reasons because they want something other than the basic needs. The one thing that this article does specify too is the importance of tears, and why, and that's what I wanted to look into, why we actually produce tears. We are the only species that actually produces tears when we cry. And this seems to be, a way of accentuating or expressing more fully that we are very serious about this emotional distress that we are incurring. When a baby or a toddler cries but does not produce tears, we don't take it as seriously. in this article, there's a study done where researchers had taken photos of people that were crying and digitally erased their tears. They would take the picture with tears and show it to some people, the picture without tears and show it to other people, and try and see what they felt the person was feeling in these pictures. The people that were showed the pictures with tears it was easy for them to say, like, this person's emotionally upset. Whereas when the tears were digitally erased, it wasn't so easy for these people to figure out what it was that the person was feeling. Sometimes they thought it was awe or like surprise, and so from that you could say that the tears, basically just express more fully that this is a real emotional, like, distressful situation for that person. That was the main thing those are mainly the points that I wanted to make in this, that, the act of crying is actually controlled by these lower parts of the brain, in the cerebellum and the brain upper part of the brain stem, and that we produce tears as a way of communicating the gravity of the situation, and that was all.